Hello, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's community forum on affordable housing. Access to adequate and safe housing is universally recognized as one of the most basic of human needs. And inability to afford housing is a key driver of homelessness, which, according to the latest report from the National Alliance to End Homelessness, has been on an upward trend for the last 4 consecutive years, and showed that over 580,000 people were experiencing homelessness in the US, and that was back in January of 2020. Today, as we grapple with an affordable housing crisis worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, we are going to learn about how 3 organizations are tackling the affordable housing problem from an investment perspective. My name is Victoria Carrion, and I serve as Director of Membership and Partnerships at the Catholic Impact Investing Collaborative. We work to spread the word of impact investing and to expand the stewardship of financial resources in service to people and planet by sharing our experiences, celebrating our Catholic faith and values, and letting the Holy Spirit guide us. Part of the core activities that we engage in to drive our mission include the Catholic Impact Investing Pledge and our new membership program, which I can share more about after our discussion. Before we start our program, let us say a prayer for all those who don't have access to affordable and adequate housing, or even a place to call home. Dear Lord, hear our prayer today for all who are homeless in this day, for those sleeping under bridges, in abandoned buildings, in doorways or bus stations, for those who can only find shelter for the night, but must wander in the daytime, for families broken because they could not afford to pay the rent, for those who have no relatives or friends who can take them in, for those who have no place to keep possessions that remind them of who they are, for those who are cold, afraid, and hopeless. For all these people, we pray that you will provide shelter, security, and hope. We pray for those of us with warm houses and comfortable beds, that we not be lulled into complacency and forgetfulness. Jesus, help us to see your face in the eyes of every homeless person we meet, so that we may be empowered through word and deed to bring justice and peace to them. Amen. Okay, let's see. We have enabled the Q&A function. If you have a question for our speakers, please drop it in the Q&A box, and feel free to use the chat box to introduce yourselves and to let us know where you're joining from and to share your thoughts. As usual, this event is being recorded, and we will share a link of the recording in a couple of days with a learning report with the takeaways from today's event. I am now going to turn it over to our moderator, Dan Nielsen, for a brief overview and introduction of our speakers. Dan is Head of Product Management of ESG Indexes at Morningstar, and co-chairs our Participation and Outreach Committee at CIIC, in addition to serving on CIIC's advisory board. Over to you, Dan. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Victoria. So one other note that I want to add before we get into the topic matter is that this is part of a series of quarterly forums that CIIC is sponsoring to inform members and participants and other interested parties about important issues that can be addressed through impact investing. And we're defining impact investing within CIIC as clearly creating measurable environmental and social positive impacts, as well as generating financial returns. And affordable housing is definitely part of that. I want to thank all 3 speakers ahead of time for their willingness to join us and share their experiences and expertise. They have a lot of really good experiences and wisdom to share. So I want to jump right into it, starting with Nathan Taft. Nathan joined Rose in 2004, where he oversees the acquisition and the preservation of affordable and mixed income multifamily housing in walkable, transit-oriented locations nationally. He has led the investment of 7 equity funds in $2 billion of property investments, helping Rose grow into one of the country's leading impact managers in the field with a portfolio of 17,000 units. Nathan is a member of the firm's management team and investment committee, as well as internal advisory committees focused on anti-racism, compliance, risk, and resilience. Nathan, I'll hand it over to you. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this panel, and I look forward to the discussion. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Is my audio coming through okay? Great. Good. Great. Well, thank you again for having me. I'm Nathan Taft, I'm a partner at Jonathan Rose, and I wanted to talk to you about the affordable housing preservation and investment work that we've been doing. I've been with the company for 17 years at this point, and as Dan mentioned, worked with our founder to craft a platform and build a strategy around impact investing in the affordable housing preservation space. Why I think this is important is, as was Victoria and Dan both highlighted, I mean, housing really is a safe, stable base for families and seniors to thrive. And the problem is that in the United States today, even today, in 2021, the stock of housing is incredibly, by and large, energy inefficient. Often these affordable housing assets are old, and sometimes they're even toxic based on the materials that were selected to build them in the first place. Not to mention that sometimes because they're mismanaged, they're also unsafe, providing sort of toxic stress on the people who live there. So over our 30-year history, we've been striving to show that there is a better way. And we think that we've created a financial strategy that also addresses the social equity and the environmental issues that are inherent in the built environment. And part of our company is that we not only, you're seeing here a picture of a project that we're building in East Harlem now, which is one of the largest passive house projects in the US, 700 units, but we also, in addition to building, obviously invest in the preservation of existing buildings. We're active, as Dan mentioned, I mean, we've got 17,000 units now in our portfolio. We're active in 18 states in the district. But for us, it's really around our investment strategy is really about our impact strategy. I mean, and we believe that literally every community and every property that we invest in should be something that's providing residents with access to opportunity. I mean, that's the critical piece of it. And having it be something that's helping people propel their lives forward and not hold them back. We have a business
I'm sorry,
strategy.
Nathan, just real quick. Sometimes your audio is getting a little soft and then a little loud. If you could maybe
okay, I'll try.
Just speak up just a little bit more.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
So our business strategy is designed really to deliver on these social and environmental returns. And we believe, over our track record of more than 15 years of doing funds, that we've been able to generate market rate returns that are very competitive for our asset class. Again, we buy and build affordable and mixed income properties and introduce social, educational, and cultural services to our residents. And with each property, invest in energy efficiency, water conservation to lessen the demand for natural resources. Trying to advance here. So as Dan had asked, I wanted to touch on sort of what is affordable housing. Typically, I think you can divide this up into three buckets. There's subsidized housing, regulated housing, and naturally occurring affordable housing. Typically, the definition federally in the United States for affordable housing is describing housing that is affordable to people who earn 60% of the area median income or less. And so we, in our investment strategy, also define affordable housing that way. Subsidized housing is typically synonymous with the HUD Section 8, which is the rent subsidized. Tenants pay 30% of their income in rent, whatever that income may be. It may be very little, and the government pays the balance of the rent up to a market rent. Regulated housing is typically synonymous with low-income housing tax credit housing. It's rent restricted for people earning 60% of area median income or less. And naturally occurring affordable housing is what the industry has started to refer to as this de facto affordable housing that is both unregulated and unsubsidized, but it can be sometimes the housing of last resort for people. What I also wanted to highlight here, though, is that in the country, in the United States, the low-income housing tax credit has been one of the most effective mechanisms we've had to build new housing, but we're losing almost as much housing each year. that we're building through that program. So in effect, we're running to standstill. So that's why we've created these investment funds to invest in affordable housing preservation. Environmental impact is a really critical part of the strategy as well. We believe that not only do we need to think about the location of the buildings and their relation to jobs, schools, transit, and opportunity, because that helps reduce vehicle miles traveled, but you also need to green the buildings themselves to build resilient communities. And by picking healthier materials, enhance the health and wellness for the residents. We set corporate goals around greenhouse gas reduction, water reduction, energy reduction, and waste. And at the corporate level, tie this to not only the targets for our individual properties, but also to the way that we compensate people within our company being able to achieve these goals. Every property that we buy, we start with benchmarking. We use data software tools to do energy audits and benchmark energy performance, and then define a tailored green energy scope. That's part of a wider renovation that's about enhancing the resident experience at our properties. We've adopted third-party standards. This is the Enterprise Green Communities is, we think, one of the most effective for affordable housing in actually benchmarking and measuring your performance to avoid greenwashing. We obviously have a deep commitment to affordable housing and to green building, but that it's we always think better to third-party verify it. Networks are also really important in this work, and we do a lot of information sharing, best practice sharing, all around material selection or strategies. But we've also aligned ourselves with the wider sort of impact investment ecosystem, and thinking one of those ways in which we've aligned ourselves is with the UN SDGs. We do asset level environmental reporting for individual properties to look at the reductions that we're achieving. We also, though, report at the fund level, which we think is really important to the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark. To produce, all of this helps us produce case studies like this. This is a project that we bought 558 units of subsidized senior housing in Bay Ridge, Brooklyn. This is 100% affordable, and you can see that this is a $150 million asset that we acquired and preserved. We were actually not the high bidder on this, but we were really picked because of our reputation for stewardship. And here you can see too, though, that as part of the capital strategy, we're able to invest for a very attractive payback of less than 2 years on the energy efficiency improvements that we made. Other key things that I'll move through quickly, but the trends that are out there. We've created a solar company to do on-site power generation at our properties. We're thinking through resilience measures and how that's impacting cities and communities where people live. Sustainable procurement's a really critical part of it, integrating all of these other operating issues around green cleaning, the monitoring and reporting. And I think on the horizon is the fact that you'll see legislation starting to push more and more towards decarbonization of our assets. And so we're thinking through how we can move buildings away from fossil fuels and actually have them be all electric. And then COVID has laid bare the fact that many of our social support networks have led to demographic changes and migrations within the country. And so we're looking at the ways that these issues are also now interacting with climate change and other climate-related events that are happening to make, I think, the investing climate a little bit more complex. But this location intelligence tool is helping us look at those trends and figure out how best to be responsibly investing. I'll close by talking a bit about our social impact strategy, which is at the heart of all of this, because these investments are made for the residents there. Our company was founded around regenerating the fabrics of communities, and we believe that every project should be a community of opportunity. We've defined these categories of impact, as you can see outlined here, around safety, food security, financial security, civic engagement, access to transit, and healthy living, and all these others that are listed here. These are critical components, though, are part of a toolkit that we work with our staff to roll out at every project. Here too is a tour of a community center that we built at one of our properties. This is a large property outside of Hartford, Connecticut. And we are regularly building these kind of hubs, these community rooms where this is a hub of activity and engagement. You can see that it integrates healthy living in the form of a gym. We also do on-site medical screening rooms to bring outside clinics to come to do health screening. we've certified ourselves with CORE, which is through Stewards of Affordable Housing for the Future, to help, again, benchmark sort of our engagement and the standards with which we do our work. And all of this work is really made possible by our resident service coordinators who work at our properties. We don't do service provision per se, but we do with the service coordinators, it's finding all of the necessary partnerships and communities to be able to drive these things forward. And then a critical component I would say about building what we talk a lot about of collective efficacy is resident leadership, having tenant associations that are organized and who can express their will and desire. I think the other critical thing too COVID revealed is that digital connectedness has been something that we talked about, feels like more than a decade ago, but during COVID was really revealed how bad this problem really is. And so this is one of our critical areas of focus this year in rolling this out to all of our properties. The last thing I'll mention, and then before I conclude, is just that we're working on with academic partners at Harvard School of Public Health, Columbia, Dartmouth, to do a longitudinal study to look at how interventions, social service interventions at properties are actually changing life outcomes. We've done a literature review and are beginning this longitudinal study, that multi-year study that will really uncover how these interventions are or are not working, and so that we can adjust practice. But it's something that we feel we've made great strides on the environmental side and being able to prove the case that these are effective measures. And we think that there's a great need for more data on the social side so that we can prove the case to investors that this is a viable way to go. We report on all of our work, obviously, and with our impact report, and we think this is critical for us not only to report on our financial returns, but also on the social and environmental pieces of our work. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. And again, I'm just happy to be here on the panel. So Dan, with that, I'll turn it to you.
Yeah, I just had to unmute. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I think you covered a broad swath of material with lots of really clear examples to help us get a better understanding of the different opportunities and the work that Rose is doing. So thank you for that. I'd like to move on to our second speaker, Daryl Newell. Daryl serves as a president of Seaway, which is a division of Self-Help Credit Union, where he manages strategic organizational planning for self-help's development and growth in the south and west sides of Chicago and parts of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He first joined Self-Help Federal Credit Union in May 2017 as an executive staff member after an extensive 27-year career in the banking industry. Daryl attended the Kellogg School of Management's KMI 14 program and received his MBA from Keller Graduate School of Management and his BA degree from Northwestern University. Daryl, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. And good morning, everyone. And thank you for allowing me to be part of the panel. As you can see, the first slide gives you my name and the institution I work for. So I am president of the Seaway division of Self-Help Federal Credit Union, and pleased to be here. So let's take look at the next slide that talks about our impacts since 1980. You can see that we've done over 170,000 loans to individuals and organizations. That totals about over $9 billion. And we have over 162,000 members. We are a credit union, so we don't have customers, we have members. And the next slide will tell us a little bit more about our impact to date. You can see who we've been making loans to, where we've been making those loans, and exactly how the deposits that our members have been providing us have been used to make sure that we're providing economic opportunity for all, but most importantly, we're either providing homes for folks, renovating properties that are going to become rental properties, or working with nonprofits who need space, affordable space, so that they can do the work that's required of them to make sure that the neighborhoods have the appropriate amenities and services required for a great quality of life. So, you know, you can see we've loaned money to 82% of low-income borrowers, 63% of folks of color, and underserved areas is about 69%. We are a mission-driven organization and like to work with partners that are mission-aligned. And our next slide now talks a little bit more about what I just said. You know, we've got over 12,000 borrowers, and we've done all that equates to about $1.4 billion in mortgages through our credit union. And again, you can see most of those loans are going to people of color. We do have a secondary mortgage operation. And what happens there is we actually work with other partners to purchase loans that they originate in areas that they typically would not have worked, so that we can then make sure that we are active participants in providing affordable housing. So if you could now go to the next slide. These are some of our impact stats that we have here, right? And you can see ever to date what our home lending looks like. Again, we've over 12,000 homeowners. Again, most of those are low income, and by low income, we're saying that your income is below 80% of the area median income for whatever the geographic region may be. So we do have 2 credit unions and a lending company that work across the country. So our state credit union is chartered out of North Carolina and works in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida. We have a federal credit union that I'm a part of that works in the Midwest, which is Milwaukee and Chicago primarily. And then we have over 20 locations in California and recently acquired a credit union in Washington State. So everyone's going to have their own area minimum income requirement. And so I just wanted to share that. And you can take a look at what we've been doing in our secondary market. We've helped there. And you can see in Chicago, since 2012, since we've entered this market, we've done over 3,500 loans, over 480 million or so. And then we purchased another 2,600 or so in the area. So we're really committed to making sure that we can provide mortgages to folks that can't have the income and the desire to be homeowners. And let's take a look at the next slide. And so this tells you a little bit about our new initiatives in Chicago. So what we're doing is we've created an initiative called the Racial Wealth Gap Initiative, where we're going to run 3 pilots where we're going to come up with innovative products and services, down payment assistance, 105% equity products, to make sure that folks who necessarily don't have the long-term wealth, the down payment, the 20% down, but they have the income to afford the house. So we're coming up with services that allow them to get into the home, because since home ownership is deemed to be one of the best ways to start wealth in this country, obviously then you have to invest and save, but we wanted to start with the cornerstone of wealth, which is home ownership. And then we like partnerships. So right now we have a partnership with Guaranteed Rate, because as we're working on obtaining our FHA, our ability to originate FHA loans, we work with Guaranteed Rate, which is a large lender across the country, to provide those loans for us so that we can then continue to be of assistance to our members. Now, the interesting thing about partnerships that we have is we've actually renovated the old Seaway building. It was a mid-century design. It's a historic building. So we had way too much space, 40,000 square feet. So what we've done there is what we've done with 40 other properties in North Carolina, work with our real estate team to rehab it, take up less space as a credit union, put neighborhood housing services in. We've got some other nonprofit tenants we're going to put in and create this community hub that is really going to allow us to provide the financial services that the community needs. And again, we're working with various partners. Some folks that have been interested is My Block, My Hood, My City, YWCA, Greater Chatham Initiative, 100 Black Men of Chicago, Bob Beers, and other entities that provide affordable housing or support to rehabbers who then rehab homes that then are placed on the market and that we then finance, which are affordable. So let's take a look at the next slide. Now, the quick question is how can you support us? Right, so the easiest way to do it is we are a credit union. It's just pretty much mission-supported deposits. We have rates that are competitive. Our investments range from $1 million to $13 million plus. We do use secondary capital. There's a way that you can assist us with that, providing a deposit through our ventures fund. And then we have other capital growth opportunities that we work with our nonprofits, and we have a specific team that does this. that works with folks who have extra cash that should be placed into more liquid accounts. We have ways for us to work with investors and then provide you the return that you're looking for cash that needs to stay liquid. And then at the end of this, next slide, please. Right, and then we also have grants and operating grants and all types of grants because we are a nonprofit. So we do seek capital grants, we do write grants. We are specifically, and we report back on those grants. For example, we work with 2 or 3 institutions to do the $14 million remodel of the Seaway facility. And we did that with new markets tax credits, working with mission-driven and mission-aligned partners to make that project a reality so that we could keep the rents low to the tenants that are going to join in and make sure that we can deliver services to the community. You know, relationships are very important to us. So we hope that you take a look at what we presented and have a conversation with us about how we could go about working with you in the appropriate manner based on how you like to tackle the affordable housing challenge here in the United States. If you could go to the next slide, please. Right, and this is how you can reach us. So now you'll see someone else's name here other than mine. It's Kimberly Jones. She is our manager of investor relations, right? And that's just a fancy way of saying that she works with nonprofits and businesses and folks who are mission aligned with us to discuss our mission supported deposit products and other opportunities to place deposits with us that make a social impact. Right, and there's Kim. Kim Jones is on, and we will actually post this particular presentation so that you can get to us on social media. You can see that our annual report has an in-depth display of our impact and what we do. You know, I like to call us a sophisticated grassroots credit union. We're small but mighty. We do a lot more than what people think. We've got $1 billion lending company. We've got another company called the Center for Responsible Lending, who helps craft legislation to do away with predatory lending and help folks understand what we're seeing as we're going out making loans in the community and having conversations with community residents. We share those same voices with lawmakers to make sure that they are understanding of what their constituents are looking for so that then they can pass the laws that make everything and increase the quality of life for individuals in this country who may not always have an opportunity to either inherit wealth or may not have a job right now that allows them to accumulate a lot of wealth. We believe that they still deserve the same basic human rights, and we have a group that lobbies on their behalf to make sure that that happens and writes white papers and presents the studies that we found as we've been able to go out and provide loans to homeowners, home loans or charter school loans or loans to faith-based institutions and the various types of loans that we like to do across the country to make sure that everyone, first of all, understands that they are viable to do the way we're doing them. And this is the way you want to go about making sure that you can reach those populations to give them that opportunity. So I really appreciate the opportunity to go through that really quickly about who we are and what we do and how we help out. And we'll make sure that we provide this deck so that you can go out there and take a look at some of our numbers and see how we've exactly been able to attack the situations that are impacting the lives of folks who are looking for decent, affordable housing. Now, the one way we do that in addition to loans is we do work with small rehabbers. We're fortunate in Chicago. We've got what they call the Chicago bungalows and lots of 1 to 4 units that qualify as single family homes. And why that's important is because if you are a family that is allowed to obtain, say, a 3-unit, it gives you an opportunity to get a leg up because you can occupy a floor or 2 and then you can provide affordable housing to someone else that pays you rent while at the same time allowing you to create wealth and pay off your mortgage faster. So we really like to work with what we call operators who then take properties, put them back online, and then we like to do what we call the in loan of the mortgages so that individuals can then buy those homes and live the dreams of home ownership. So thanks a lot, Dan, for allowing me to really run through what we do, and I look forward to just answering any other questions.
Thanks, Daryl. I really appreciate your remarks and educating us on what self-help and what Seaway is doing. So we've heard from Nathan and from Daryl, two organizations that are actually making affordable housing investments, doing the work on the ground. But I want to turn now to Evan Gill, and she's going to share more about the investor side of things and her experiences. Evan Gill is the Senior Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs at Catholic Charities, USA, and also leads their work in impact investing. And prior to joining Catholic Charities, Evan founded and led impact investing at Catholic Relief Services and the Aga Khan Foundation. She also founded and runs Acquire Consulting Group, which brings training, talent, and tools to nonprofits and hybrid social enterprises entering or scaling in the impact investing sector. So Evan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen here. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with how Catholic Charities is organized, but we are Catholic Charities USA is the national office of a membership network of 167 Catholic Charities member agencies. So each member agency has its own board, does its own decision making, and many of them are involved in the affordable housing space, both in building units, in rehabbing units, and looking at scattered sites. They may have as well their own real estate development companies, or they may work with local partners. So just sort of looking first at impact by the numbers, we have 38,000 units across the US. We work in all 50 states and the US territories. We have 180,000 housing clients. These are people who are actually being housed. We also provide housing counseling and wraparound services. So that number is a little over 400,000 for those who are involved in general, in particular with our homelessness work. And we still have 73,000 households on the waiting list. So that really speaks to exactly what our previous two presenters were saying about, how there just is not enough affordable housing out there at this point. When we look at our breakdown by population, we have a number of different groups that we look to house. These are our projects and units. We've got, as you can see here, senior housing, housing for families, formerly homeless, persons with special needs, a large group of other, and a particular focus on veterans, transition age youth, and pregnant women. So you can just see from this slide here how many units have already gone up or been acquired that we are either owning or directly managing currently. And this is our pipeline in development. This comes from our annual survey from this year. So overall, families right now is our largest category of units, followed by seniors and formerly homeless. I want to talk specifically here about one project that we are helping to coordinate and move forward from the national office with 5 of our sort of pilot member agencies, but we hope will expand. For these different projects, again, they are run, and all of the sort of work that is done is driven by the local agencies. So we do have mixed use, we have mixed income, just a variety of different types of projects. So it may not just be one building, it may be multiple buildings, it may be a group of tiny homes that we have seen work out. So there's quite a lot to look at here. But I want to talk about the Healthy Housing Initiative. This is where we are looking to co-locate health, affordable housing, and wraparound services for the chronically homeless, which is, it has a new definition under HUD, but I'll just say it's people who have been homeless for at least a year and have some form of disability. So this population is particularly vulnerable, and we have 5 pilot agencies. You can see here the agency itself, and then what city we're actually looking to build housing in. These are all greenfield or new buildings. So Detroit, Las Vegas, Portland, Spokane, and St. Louis. Spokane is sort of the founding agency under this that we've taken a bit of the model from and are looking to adapt it. So they have quite a few affordable housing units there and are actually getting close to functional zero at this point. And then we have others like Portland that have a robust pipeline and are working on expanding this into other agencies that either are looking at this particular type of partnership, which takes advantage of the natural mission alignment with the Catholic Health Association, Catholic hospitals, as well as wherever possible, looking at surplus church property. I think on our speaker call, we did talk a little bit about how some of these investment in debt products are helpful because others are coming into the space and realizing that this can be, an attractive space and buying up the real estate. And so one of the things that we are looking at for initial site control is land that is already owned by the Archdiocese and others within the Catholic world. So that is, I think, an area that will help investors to feel more secure, as well as give us a bit more time, because in addition to healthy housing, sort of most of, if not all of, the units that have been constructed or rehabbed and are in the pipeline do take advantage of the low-income housing tax credit. We do have an advocacy group, a policy component to our work, and affordable housing is very much something that we are pushing forward for our own advocacy agenda for our members, and in particular around the current reconciliation bill. So that is something that we are trying to preserve in that. This initiative has 3 main goals. So to reduce chronic homelessness by 20% in each city, to decrease hospitalization readmission rates for homeless persons by at least 25%. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. And connect 35% of newly housed persons to primary care and behavioral health services. So that is just one initiative within sort of our group of different types of housing projects. We've seen some, especially from the first presentation, some discussion around green housing, and we saw a wonderful picture of a solar project there. And I just wanted to bring up that we have been talking to Catholic Energies, which is sort of under the umbrella of Mission Energies, and they are launching a fund. It's a first fund, so a smaller dollar amount, $10 million, all to be invested in 2022. They only work with solar projects for Catholic facilities. They do also do LED retrofitting. It depends on the facility, but their main focus is solar. Their long-term vision is really to focus in affordable housing, low-income communities. And one discussion that we've been having with them is, they have been going out to external investors, and if they're able to bring this in-house with their own fund, they're able to really look more at green workforce development. And that is something where there's a nice alignment with Catholic Charities and our workforce development work as well. That's additional impact for the investment dollars spent there. While they are trying in this first fund to really establish themselves, so they're going to do projects that make financial sense. They have really shown a track record of being able to complete projects. They've already finished 15 and have 14 more under construction. Their largest project is with Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese of DC, District of Columbia, and all of the buildings under Catholic Charities are actually powered by that solar project. And to understand the sort of impact and huge interest, in addition to being environmentally friendly, the Archdiocese saves about, or the Catholic Charities within the Archdiocese of DC saves about $300,000 a year in costs for energy, as well as we have a ground lease with the Sisters of Charity, who then get about $200,000 a year that goes towards a retirement home for the sisters. And so we have nice alignment with this company, with this project. We are also looking at sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's on a homeless shelter in Las Vegas and putting solar on top of that as well. Now, they are going to be listed on the CIIC's new deal sharing platform. So that'll probably be within the next few weeks, and you can go there to check that out. Or of course, you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to connect you with the kind of deal team. They are, speaking to investors right now. So this is an open opportunity for this first fund. As we look at Catholic Charities sort of writ large, one thing we found is, and I don't want to speak for every agency because, as I've said, each one tackles housing at a very local level. But what we have found is that just about everything is debt financing. I don't think that we have spoken with anyone who at this point is interested in equity financing. So these really would be discussions around debt. And as we look at kind of the first the three main phases of financing, we've looked into pre-development and as well as construction financing and permanent financing. We, as I've said, take advantage of LIHTC as well as home credits and new market tax credits and things like that. So, if there are any insurance companies or potential pension funds on the call who are looking to do permanent financing, that is certainly a discussion that we would love to have. Under the first two, what we found is sometimes there are gaps that debt can fill, or bridge loans, and while we will certainly connect people to the local agencies to discuss any kind of specifics around a particular project, if we have found that there are particular needs across multiple agencies, multiple states, this is something that we are exploring as a potential way that we can better serve our members. And so what I'd say is if this is an area that you're interested in, just as Daryl said, please reach out to us, and make sure to put you in contact with the right people, and we'll continue to have those discussions with multiple agencies and investors who are interested. The last thing I'd like to talk about is this trend that we've seen in pay for success or impact bonds. Not sure how familiar people are, but we can look at that in the Q&A if people are particularly interested. But this is a trend that we're following. HUD and the Department of Justice launched, I think originally 7, maybe down to 5 or 6 now, pilots that work with the chronically homeless. And as I was talking about before, We're looking at reducing ER visits for super utilizers and connecting people to primary care. So these are areas where there's cost saving kind of along the financing chain. And so, this is an area that we are keeping an eye on. There's space for investors in the pay for success models. So this, again, if it's something that may be of interest to you, then this is an area that we'd love to have a discussion. So I will go ahead and turn that back over so that we can start our Q&A. Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you very much. A reminder, if people in the audience do have questions, please submit them in the Q&A function at the bottom, and we'll try to get to them. But first question I'm going to take, and first I'm going to ask Nathan and Daryl, what advice would you give investors on due diligence? So investors that are interested in investing money in Rose or Seaway self-help, and they're conducting due diligence. What is any advice or key questions that you've seen, sort of best practices that you can recommend to our audience? And then Evan, I'll ask you a similar question. As an investor, when you work with third parties, so for instance, the Catholic Social Debt Fund, how did you conduct the due diligence and make sure that it wasn't just the mission that you were aligned with, but you knew they were capable investors? So Nathan, I'm going to ask you to lead off with that.
Sure. Thank you. I think, for us, we've put together, having done now 7 funds, and I think one of the questions I see now is in the Q&A is how to invest with us. We have private equity funds. We also have private REITs for people who are UBIT sensitive, and so that's how people can invest with us in these funds. We don't have a current fund open. We're investing, we just raised $525 million of equity, and we're investing that now, but we will be coming to market with a fund soon. But in terms of due diligence, we've prepared a full due diligence questionnaire that really goes through our entire organization, our mission, our business. We've compiled a track record. We have a number of realizations. So I think that helps for people to see that investment track record. I think the stability of the team. I've been, again, with the firm for 17 years, working together with our founder who put this business together 30 years ago. So I think that stability, track record, impact, and then I think obviously the references. We have now a whole cohort of, because we started with friends and family, we've moved to large institutions, and we have all of them coexisting together. Investor references are really critical. And then site visits has been a key part. Both even pre and post COVID, investors have done due diligence site visits to our office to understand operations, all the way down to sort of internet security, et cetera. But then getting out to our properties and actually seeing the investments that we make and the services and the properties in action. So I think those are all ways to do it, but getting that DDQ can be due diligence questionnaire from a manager can be a really great place to start.
Excellent, thank you. Daryl, what would you add from your perspective?
Well, thanks a lot. And I think Nathan hit it right on the head with how you want to engage institutions like ours around getting to know us better. Now, we do some of the same things. We've got the packages. We can tell you how we've done, who we've touched. The best way, and I'm taking my self-help federal credit union hat off now. And just speaking as a guy that's been doing this in this kind of space for a while, what makes self-help unique is you have folks like Kim Jones who you could actually have a conversation with around the various ways you can work with us. More importantly, she can give you specific information that you're looking for, because with an organization like ours, everything's not going to be on the website. If you specifically want to know more about our policy making and activities, that's why she's there. So then we can dig down and get you to the appropriate person and can tell you what we're doing around, affordable housing, around incarceration, around getting rid of financially unaffordable products and services. That's just one example. And then we have what we call a DTC product, right? Then we also write grants. So if you are a grant maker or you want to give us money for a particular issue that's near and dear to your heart, and you think there's alignment, that's where the benefit of working with someone like Kim comes in once you get past the initial screens that Nathan was talking about. So I think our advantage is you got a chance to actually speak with someone who can walk you through the organization based on whatever your investment policy statement says and whatever your objectives are, to see if there's a really good fit for us, whether it be our standard type of deposit products or something that we can customize together to really get to the impact that that particular funding source or organization wants to get to, if it makes sense. So I think our ability to customize approaches using grants or some other innovative deposit products, or we call PRI investments, is really what makes us unique in this particular marketplace. And besides, we really do like working with nonprofits and partnerships. So the more partnerships we can have with mission-aligned folks, the better off we are. And that's how we like to do business.
Great, thank you. Two key things that I heard both Daryl, you and Nathan talk about is transparency and accessibility. So being transparent and willing to share the information that investors are looking to see to make them feel confident, and also making yourselves available to have those conversations. Evan, do you have anything to add about the due diligence part of the process?
Yeah, I think that that Nathan and Daryl really, this is the way that you traditionally would go about due diligence. I think just one thing that I'd like to highlight is, we're seeing this trend towards taking a bigger risk on first-time fund managers, particularly if they are more mission aligned, if they are providing exactly what you're looking for. So having deep discussions with your investment committee, with those that maybe you're co-investing or bringing on a third party, having some blended finance options or guarantees underneath it, so grants and investments, but really being able to take a bit more of a risk is something that we've seen coming forward, and I think that's an important thing for people to start looking at.
Great, thank you. Open question to any or all of you. Can you speak a little bit about some of the risks that are involved when investing in affordable housing? So with any investment, there is risk involved. So what should our audience, the investors, understand about any risks that are involved with making these types of investments?
I think it's obviously physical asset, so there's risk there. I think that's something that we've been thinking a lot about relative to climate change, named storm events, overall resilience. These are also long-lived investments, so you need to be thinking about sort of climate change events, not just now, but in the future. So we're looking at the residual. These are cash flowing assets, but there's also, you need to be thinking about the residual value. I think, overall, though, there's a lot of myth around affordable housing, and some people think it's maybe a dangerous or risky asset class. It's actually a very stable asset class. It is, there's huge demand. So the demand drivers here make it a very, or we think, a very low risk investment, and one that generates a non-correlated return. We've seen through COVID and through up cycles and downs that affordable housing has performed extremely well. But I think, again, it's just really around the physical risks at the properties. And then it's kind of manager and sponsor risk. And so that's why I think for us, reputation is really, really important.
And speaking to the due diligence element that investors have to conduct. So Daryl, you went off mute.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, as a lender that does the in loan after Nathan puts all the properties online for me, we have the same concern. What is the appraised value, right? Is it energy efficient, right? Because what we like to do is once we find the folks that can make the payments, they may not have the 20% down or whatever it may be, we still want to make sure that they can stay in the house. And if something happens later on, have the funds to repair whatever requires to be repaired. But that starts with making sure that the building is energy efficient, as far as the utilities are concerned, and some of those other environmental things that Nathan talked about, and how we design the building. Right now. And we do have a group that works around energy efficiency and solar panels and all that kind of stuff. So we do have the in-house expertise to really understand how to work with rehabbers folks like Nathan, especially the smaller ones in our neighborhoods that we're going to see, to really understand what materials they should be using. Is it cost effective to use those materials, even though they may have been using something else, and allow them to see the value in using those as they are rehabbing these homes that they're going to put online. And we found that's a very unique opportunity to work with the smaller guys to help them understand through our inspection process how they can go about putting together a property that's not only appealing with an open floor concept, but has all of the ways to save energy, right, for a family based on the expenses they're going to have. So we're in lockstep with how you do all of that. And then obviously for us, the home is the collateral, right? So we want the collateral to be strong and safe. And hopefully after 5 to 7 years, you build up a little wealth and you might move. And so we want that home to be sustainable, like Nathan said, for someone else. Great,
thank you. Evan, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, so when we're looking at buildings that are either mixed income or fully, affordable housing, I would say, some of the larger risks are around timing. So because we do take advantage of LIHTC, that can take quite a while, and maintaining site control during that time. And that is one of the reasons that we do focus on, surplus church property and being able to have a little bit more time horizon on that for impact investors that are looking to sort of move into this area. One of the things I would say is, products that, maybe have a longer time frame, so that they are, we're able to get through the process of getting the credits themselves. And I'd say another part of it is certainly the voucher system, and our advocacy group is really trying to hold the line on that with what's coming out in the Build Back Better initiative, because we want to make sure that those payments are available and therefore make the project successful.
Great, thanks. We're coming up on time, and I know we need to wrap up, but I want to take one last question, this one from our Q&A section, and ask any or all of our participants to answer this briefly. And this concerns, the question is, we've heard a lot about the work that the 3 organizations are doing in urban areas. And can you speak a little bit about affordable housing work that's going on in smaller communities or rural areas? And because you're all 3 experts in this area, it doesn't have to be just what your firms are doing. But within affordable housing, what's going on, what type of work is happening in non-urban communities?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say part of our mission and why we've gravitated though towards urban or dense suburban nodes is just that we've wanted to have low-income families and seniors have access to opportunity and services. And so typically that's what we've striven for, is try to find those areas. But I think there are definitely programs that are investing in affordable housing and supporting it. Typically, there's even the Rural Development Authority. It's just that the funds that we have just aren't focused on it, but there are definitely programs out there that are doing it. I think for us, again, when we're just thinking about linking the climate mission, it's a lot of it's about location. Again, in this country, we have this issue about drive to qualify, where low-income poor families have had to drive long distances to get to jobs. So we've typically tried to gravitate towards these denser nodes, which has been a key part of our strategy.
Good, thank you.
Right, and I'm going to answer that as for self-help. So when I spoke earlier, we are in North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, and California. So we do have areas that are rural. In California, that everybody's farming or picking or growing oranges and all those type of things, and they're doing the same thing in North Carolina and South Carolina. And in some cases, you just had industry to leave. So we just found that because we're a regulated lender, our products have to all be uniform across the country. So that's where those products that we come up with, the 100% equity boost and the no down payment products and the down payment assistant products really help in rural areas as well as urban areas, right? Because for us, it's just about making sure that once we understand what your median income is there a program that we have for you that allows you to have the housing you deserve no matter where you live. So you'll find that because we start off in North Carolina, we really do have a good grip on working with rural areas, and our products are straight across the board, and we found that they work across rural and urban communities.
Excellent. So thank you. Evan, quickly.
Yeah, I'll just say that, our footprint is both urban and rural. So For those of you who are particularly interested in rural areas, definitely, again, just reach out and we'll be able to put you in touch either with directly the agency or those in our office who are working in that particular area.
Great, thank you. I'd like to sincerely thank our three speakers for spending their time today and sharing their experiences and wisdom. I certainly learned a lot hearing everything that you shared. I'm going to ask, I know we're over time, but I'm going to ask one more minute and hand this back over to Victoria so that she can wrap us all up and say goodbye.
Thank you so much, Dan, for doing such a great job moderating today's conversation. And we really want to thank again all of our speakers, Evan Gill at Catholic Charities USA, Daryl Newell with Seaway, Self-Help Federal Credit Union, and Nathan Taft with the Jonathan Rose Companies. Thank you so much. Also, thank you to Maggie Stoller, our Associate Director, and to CIIC's Participation and Outreach Committee for every quarter coming together with us and helping us to conceptualize and produce these wonderful community forums. We would love to keep engaging with you. We encourage you to reach out with thoughts, ideas, questions that you may have. We encourage you to consider taking the pledge. The Catholic Impact Investing Pledge is an effort to encourage Catholic institutional investors to more fully live out a commitment to Catholic social teaching by directing capital to impact investing solutions that are measurably contributing to social and environmental outcomes. And if you're ready to take that next step in your impact investing journey, whether it is starting a new impact investing program or expanding your impact investing practice, ask us about our new membership program to connect and collaborate with like-minded investors, find resources, mentorship, support, and of course, access to Catholic-aligned impact investment opportunities shared by peers. Thank you so much again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.